Добрий день, я вітаю всіх, хто
Welcome to the press conference by the Media Ukraine Center and Ukrinform. We will now start presenting the project called the Integrity Communities. Let me introduce to you Vasyl, the General Director of the state organization ProZorro, and Andrii, Mazan, the Executive Director of Tsegrin. We are into the 149th day of the aggression. Day in and day out, we receive the help from our foreign friends. So it is very relevant that we should talk about accounting for the aid received from the West. Andrii, the floor is yours. I represent the non-governmental organization of public initiatives in everyday life. We communicate with different projects, helping and consulting them. Because of the war, the situation has changed. However, we have not stepped back from the idea of helping municipal authorities. We understand the fact, and we are not diminishing the importance of the administrations, but the communities bear the brunt of this war. They are dealing with the internally displaced persons. They help in organizing territorial defense and helping the Ukrainian armed forces. They have begun to explore their initiatives and possibilities. For example, the Twin Cities idea, the friends and donors abroad. But the humanitarian aid is decreasing. And the reason for that is because our partners or donors are donating less. But the Russian Federation is putting up fake news about the embezzlement of such an aid. And the local communities start to think of where that humanitarian is going. It is targeted to those who need it. And the communities have turned to us with an idea of accounting for such an aid, how much we have received, where it has been sent to. And we have selected a number of local communities ready to account today in a open and transparent way. We want to make sure the dynamics of the aid is not decreasing, but we want to expose the idea and put it in public space that this is a transparent and targeted projects. We have come together with the representatives of the local community. They're ready to account twice a month, filling out the relevant forms, and the ProZorro organization has provided the internet portal for this. They have developed the tools for accounting. So we have launched this tool, hopefully that the communities will join in their numbers. And of course, together with the ProZorro organization, we'll be responding and providing the feedback to the communities. Welcome, everybody. I am glad to join you here. The major problems that we are facing has been described by my colleagues in a significant way. The issue of how the humanitarian aid is used is the matter of trust. Currently in Ukraine, the situation is that the sources of the humanitarian aid are numerous. There is a huge area of centralized humanitarian aid received by the military administrations. This is where the ProZorro is playing an active role. We support them and institutionalize the project through the framework Human Aid E. And territorial communities also receive a portion of aid immediately through the channels of the Twin Cities and other projects. And of course, when it comes down to transparency, there are challenges here. And we are understanding the needs of those people who want to show how transparent they have been. More than dozens territorial communities are working with us in a pilot project, and they provide information twice a month. This is not the frequency that seems to be ideal, but it allows you to monitor how the local communities take care of and manage the humanitarian aid, how much has been targeted for the interests of the internally displaced persons, how much aid has been going to the east, and what are the remaining requests and needs. We hope this idea will prevail and get expanded. And of course, we want to integrate those interests in a bigger way to see how the distribution works, the distribution of the humanitarian aid. This is the part and parcel of the ProZorro Plus project that we launched in March to meet the needs of the local communities, to engage new ones. As a result of this ecosystem within the ProZorro system, we will account for the humanitarian aid that we have received to demonstrate the transparency for our Western allies and friends. We want to cater for the needs of the Ukrainians. Over the last 50 years, the world has not seen such a challenge. For the colleagues, there are interactive accounts available on the net where you can click and go through the link to see how the communities account for their resources. We all understand that for donors, this is a high priority to understand and see where the money is channeled to, where the aid goes to. You mentioned that a dozen communities have joined. How can we ensure that the number grows? You see, there is nothing new that I can inform you about. This is a classical example. It works in the whole society. We are working with the people who are interested in accounting. You know, in Ukraine, there are hundreds of communities, though the best lessons are to be delivered by the best experiences that we have learned so far, and in such a way we will engage new communities who want to be more transparent, and it also reflects the efficiency of the works and projects of the local communities. The more transparent you are, the more chances you will have to get more aid and help. And to expand what's known in English as visibility. This tool, I think, will foster the expanse and widening of such communities. We don't want to impose our will on local communities. People are having a lot of troubles up to their ears, but hopefully we will develop a tool that is user-friendly. Conditionally speaking, if the communities account for their ways of spending the aid that they have received, but another promotion is for the communities to tell what their needs are. This is a very good question because it leads me to tell you about you and your viewers about the ProZorro Plus project. On the basis of the ProZorro system, we have developed a mechanism to talk about your needs for us to be able to attract more resources. Well, this is where the two components converge. On the one hand, you can say that we are in need of some humanitarian goods that we don't receive, and thus you will receive such an aid, and then you are able and supposed to account for this. The bonus for the local communities here is that all the communities are on our register, on our platforms. You are all registered. There is a network of support, of training that is working 24/7. So this is not a bad place to get organized in new areas of work. To respond to your question, the bigger bonus for the communities is this. The victory is looming large, and the communities that will have to renovate their activities, and the donors will, of course, be more attractive to work with the transparent communities. As an example, we've got a case from a German municipality that are seeking where they can apply their help in Ukraine, and we have had such an example. Territorially speaking, what these communities are, we have selected 12 communities from different regions, ranging from the western Ukraine to central Ukraine, from Transcarpathia to other communities in the east. We have an organization of the United Territorial Communities, and they stand ready to join in the project. Questions from the floor, colleagues, please. Ukrinform, a question to the director of the ProZorro organization, perhaps off the topic, but nevertheless. Recently, the government has returned back to the ProZorro the must-do ProZorro inspection of the state procurement. Have you seen such embezzlement or misappropriation here? In your question, as in any good question, there is a part of the answer. The procurement procedures that were taken away from ProZorro led to some misunderstandings. Before the war, it had to do with the space of procurement, and it was not clear how the economy would be doing in the first month of the war. Of course, it decreased our ability to monitor the expenditures of the state budget. As the time went by, we realized that the economy has survived. The economy seems to be resilient and is bouncing back. And we have received some signs when the budget is not used in an efficient way. For example, the efficiency of the contracts where the customers, analyzed by the Ministry of Finance, what we saw there, the difference in pricing that was very difficult to substantiate. I should emphasize, this is not a sign of embezzlement, but the price for eggs, for example, were higher in terms of 2 or 3 hryvnias as compared to the market prices. Apart from that, what we saw clearly was the local authorities were starting to build new roads. We here in the capital city know about that, but this is our public money. So the part of the state procurements beyond the military sphere, this is where we saw some speculations. What we have received back in the ProZorro system, all the procurements that are not concerning the armed forces, and we are dealing with the projects since the July of last year. Now, of course, the economy goes down, we see the decrease in public spending. However, the things that are not necessarily connected with the defense and security sector, we are taking care that these monies are spent efficiently. The volume of need that Ukraine will spend to resist and secure the fast recovery, and we are standing on the verge of the coming winter. No one will deliver the cases with the money, and the money available must be spent efficiently, so the ProZorro system provides for the fair competition. More questions, please.
First question. You mentioned funds are going to community, specific communities, military, and also territorial defense force. Is that the three main
No,
buckets?
we're talking basically about the humanitarian. The internally moved persons are being located. So it's more about, it's not like about getting the aid of like weapon or armor or something like that. It's more about like quite simple things like food and I don't know, beds and furniture and so on. So we're not dealing with the military at all. It's like a separate area, and it's currently closed even in the ProZorro because of defense issues.
Gotcha. What percentage would you say is TDF, Territorial Defense Force?
What percentage of spendings, you mean?
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. That that they were.
No. I mean,
if I understood correctly.
look, it's really hard to estimate the current percentage of the fundings which goes to the territorial defense, because we do not see this data in the open data. I mean, they are closed for, again, because of security reasons, and we can rely only on the previous data, like the year ago, and for sure the share between the defense procurement like a year ago is quite different from what it's right now. I would say that's like the, well, I mean, almost the same amount of money which are being spent into the humanitarian aid are currently being spent into the military aid. But it's only my gut feeling. I guess it should be probably addressed to the Ministry of Finance rather than to myself. I mean, like, again, all the military procurements are excluded from the ProZorro as for now.
I was talking specifically through your organization. Okay. Two more quick questions. Target donor audience, does that include Americans? And I assume it does. I was wondering how you're reaching out, if it does include Americans, to be donating funds to support this effort, how you're reaching out to them. And I'll just throw the next question out and turn it over. What's the key innovation? In other words, how have you best learned to convince Western Europeans and Americans that funds are being wisely spent and transparent?
That's a great question, and that's there wouldn't be any single answer to that question. First of all, it's kind of, you know, hostile situation right now. So I mean, everyone asks everyone's about the aid, and so there is no like one single point of contact from Ukraine who are asking like foreign donors in order to help them. As my colleagues already said, the local communities also contact directly their cities partners outside of Ukraine, and central governments also contact with the big donors. So I would say the distribution would be much more on the the level and the volume of the donors. So like central governments dealing with the World Bank, with the IMF, with the Red Cross, and kind of this organization. And the local governments are more focusing on the small donors funds and like non-governmental organization outside of the country. But there are like dozens of these contacts for sure. Our idea is to provide single point where all the donors can see how their funds are being spent at the end of the day. So we do not want to, to centralize the money flow. It's almost impossible as for now, and at least it's not our function as for now. But our function to show how the money are being spent. So we are able to show right now the demand. So why this amount of meal or furniture was required, the donor who has provided this help, and the end result of this help, when and how it was spent. So I mean, we represent all the transparent flow of the aid. So regardless of where this aid came from, either from like local partner or from the central government or from the procurement. That's the idea basically. Yeah, welcome.
Дякую. Чи ще є питання?
Do we have more questions here? Thank you very much. Thank you for the time you devoted and joined us. Dear friends, stay tuned and keep track of our press conferences. We are working on our schedule for the next week. on the Telegram, on the Facebook, and in YouTube.